When you walk into your closet first thing in the morning, does it feel calm and effortless to find an outfit? Or has it become a daily point of friction that slows you down before you even start your day? If your closet has become a subtle morning stressor, friend, you're in the right place. Today, I'm walking you through a real client session. But here's the catch. This video isn't about my client, although they have been so gracious to allow me to film our session together. But it's about you and your space. You can absolutely listen passively as you go about your day, and I hope you get a ton of value out of it. But if you're the type of person who gets motivated by the camaraderie of doing something with someone, then welcome to your body doubling session. So run your errands, wash your dishes, or better yet, grab that trash bag and a bag for donation, and let's head to your closet and you can work alongside us. My client, Hannah, is a homeschooling mom balancing running a business on the side and running a busy household, and they recently had recovered from some water damage in their home. Her closet was the last thing on her priority list, but it was also one of the first stressors triggering her in the morning as she got up for the day. Our focus on her closet was her side. The plan was to do the edit together because she enjoys being hands-on. Then I would organize using what she had in her space and give her a list of products, if any, that I thought might be helpful to her at the end of the project. As Hannah and I are getting started, I want you to look in your space and decide first, does your closet just need a quick tune-up, a little bit of decluttering, a little editing to go a long way? Or do you need a total reset? Your answer will decide how you use my trim method today in your space. If you decide that all your space needs is a quick little tune-up, then you're going to leave everything on your racks and in your drawers and on your shelves as you follow along. My trim method is designed to be used on a daily basis in little pockets of time, whether you have 5 minutes or 15 minutes, to edit your items without making a bigger mess that you have to make decisions on later. So if that's all you need today, make sure to leave the items in your space where they're at so you don't create an unnecessary mess that you have to deal with later. However, if your closet is not functioning well, your zones are all mixed up, and you're needing a total reset, then I want you to do what Hannah and I are doing, and we're going to pull all the items out to totally clear the slate completely. My trim method is a helpful process when you're doing a quick declutter because it doesn't create more mess. However, when you're doing a full organizing project, pulling everything out is essential so that you can see the actual amount of quantities that you have in each category. You can rearrange zones as needed for higher functioning optimization. Now, as you're working along with us, keep in mind, I compressed a 4-hour session down to under 30 minutes. So if it feels like we're moving fast, don't be hard on yourself. It took me about 30 minutes just to transfer clothes onto other hangers, but I just had to cut most of that out so you wouldn't get bored watching me transfer hangers for 30 minutes. So go at your own pace, take a deep breath, and focus on making one decision at a time. And if you need to break this project into chunks, you can focus on just doing decluttering today and then come back at another time when you have more time and focus on rezoning and doing the actual organizing. So as you're getting started, if you are doing a full reset, I want you to start by taking items out of your closet and making categories and grouping like items with like items. Like jackets together, dresses together, t-shirts together, jeans, pants, etc. Now, if you're more of a type A person and you really like structure and order, you can follow my trim method from start to finish in order, and you might find that very helpful. But if you have ADHD, whether diagnosed or self-diagnosed, or just know that you have a tendency to kind of be squirrel on things and jump from one thing to another, it's okay if you don't follow the steps in order. Whether you're taking your items out of your space or leaving them in your space, the main concept is that you're looking at each item one at a time and considering, is this trash? Do I need a Rehome Lost item? Is this obvious donations that I need to donate? Is it trash? Do I need to rehome this item? Is this item serving me? And do I have enough space to keep this item here? So let me run through the bones of my trim decluttering method for anyone unfamiliar with it, and then we'll get into some of the meat behind Hannah's session and some of the things that you might be encountering in your own space as you tackle decluttering and organizing your own closet. So first, toss the trash. We're looking for obvious trash. This is something you don't have to think about. It could be shopping receipts, gum wrappers, broken hangers, tags that have been cut off of clothes, maybe clothes that are stained or have holes or are torn beyond repair and can't be mended. These are common types of trash that I find in closets with my clients, and it's a pretty easy step. When you come across the item, just pop it in the trash. Second, we're going to rehome the lost stuff. So anything in your closet that might have migrated there but actually belongs in another space of your house, if you come across that item, I just want you to pick it up and walk it to where it goes. Part of what you're doing in this step is removing items out of the space so your brain doesn't have to process so much when you get to the harder decisions. And also it's just removing visual clutter to calm the environment that you're in. Third, identify what's serving you. So make sure that the clothes and shoes and accessories are actually things you're wearing and actively wearing in this season of life. And a little flag for future, if you come across something that feels sentimental, it might belong in a different part of your house. So stay tuned as we talk about that. And lastly, we're going to mind the limits. We're going to make sure that the categories that you have in your containers fit comfortably, that the rods aren't so stuffed that you can't move hangers side to side, that your drawers aren't so stuffed that you have to play Tetris just to get your activewear inside. And so yeah, if you're having to shove or cram things to the side or play Tetris just to get things to fit, your container is too full, which might mean that it could benefit from a full reorganization. Maybe you just need to move the zones, or maybe you need to actually do some decluttering. So our aim is to keep your space around 80 to 90% full. That way it has a little breathing room as you're taking things in and out. And also if you decide to purchase something in the future, it has a space where it can go when it gets home. So whether you're doing a mini reset or a full reset alongside us, I'm going to put my trim method on the screen so you can have a few more prompts to follow along in order. And as you pull items out and start grouping them by category, I want you to keep your space in mind. If you live in a smaller home and you're tight on space and don't have a big room, you might want to just do one category at a time. You might want to pull out all your t-shirts, put them on the bed, and then go through and do an edit and take all of your keepers to the side of the room and just put them to the side. And then obviously you're going to put your donations into your donation bag. And then you might move on to doing your jeans. Do all of your jeans out onto the bed, do an edit, put the keepers to the side in a pile, and then the others in donation. Just remember as you're doing this to account for all of your clothes. So if you have clothes in the dirty laundry or have just come out of the clean laundry, you want to account for those as well as you're doing your initial categorizing with all your clothes together before you do your actual edit. But if you have a larger space like we've got here, and obviously I've got clothing racks, we can hang items, it's pretty easy. And so feel free to pull all the items out first and just group by categories if you have the space to do so. Now, depending on your current clothing inventory amount and the size of your closet, something you need to consider is whether you want to keep all 4 seasons out and available all at once. And if that makes sense for your primary space. So you don't have to decide this right now. You can make this call a little bit later, further down the road as we start moving items back into the space, but it's something to be thinking through. And here's my recommendation is to consider how tight your closet was on space when you started and consider how many items you're actually decluttering during your edit phase. So if you had all seasons in your closet and your closet was really tight to begin with, unless you edited out a major amount, then I would recommend trialing just keeping in season and kind of shoulder season clothes available and packing up out of season clothes. And I want you to think of a high-end luxury clothing boutique. They only keep a very curated, minimal amount of inventory on the store floor. And that's what helps make the space look luxurious and open and peaceful and elevated. And then contrast that with a big box store where they have hundreds of items on displays and racks, and it can kind of feel overwhelming sometimes. And so giving your clothes room to breathe can make your daily routine just feel so much more relaxing and make your space feel more peaceful and elevated. So keep that in mind. And at the end of the day, maybe you trial it out and decide you don't love it and you can bring all the clothes back in. It's totally your choice. So if you're going through a category like t-shirts and you're having trouble deciding what to keep, don't stress. It is completely okay to do multiple rounds of editing. In fact, doing a couple rounds of editing is often really helpful in the process to decide what you actually need and want and what you don't. So don't feel like you have to make every decision right away. As you're pulling clothes out, you can do a main first pass. Anything that's obvious donation or trash, you can just get rid of it then. And then when you get your category all together, you can do another pass through, and then you can have a final pass through as you go to put the items in your space. So like, let's say you're doing t-shirts and they're going to go in the drawer. Make sure to account space for items in the drawer for items that are either in your dirty laundry or just are coming out of the clean laundry, because those are like your go-tos. Obviously, you're clearly wearing those, and so those are going to be a firm yes. They need to make it back into the drawer. Obviously, you don't have to put the dirty ones in the drawer. Just make sure that you have space for them. And then you're going to continue by filling the drawers with your next favorite, and then your next favorite, and then your next favorite. And if you get the drawer 80 to 90% full and you still have a stack of t-shirts left over that didn't make the cut, these either need to be decluttered, or, hear me out, if you are not ready to declutter them, then consider finding or creating yourself a safety stock box. If you're new here, a safety stock box is simply the term that I use for a container in your home that is reserved for decisions that you're not quite ready to make. So you weren't excited enough about those t-shirts to make sure that they made the cut to make it in your drawer. They were kind of the leftover, but you're maybe not ready to get rid of them and let them go. So you don't want to donate them either. So by putting them in your safety stock box, you can let time do the heavy lifting, and you can just let them sit there kind of out of sight, out of mind. And a few months down the road, when you go to visit that box, or maybe a year later, time will help you to decide whether or not you want to make space for that item back in the drawer, or if you want to let it go. But this is the key to making sure that we can continue our progress quickly without getting stalled and delayed by the I don't know items. So when in doubt, if it's not a firm yes to go in your closet and it's not a firm no to let go, go ahead and just put it in your safety stock box, and that will keep the momentum going. And speaking of shirts, while Hannah and I were sorting through her shirts, she came across a shirt from a marathon that she had run. And she was so proud of that, finishing that race, and rightfully so. I was so proud of her. But she admitted that she didn't actually wear that shirt anymore. It was taking up daily drawer space, mainly because of the fond and proud memory she had attached to it. So if you come across something like this in your own closet, a race shirt, a band tee from a concert, or an event shirt that you went to, and it makes you feel great because you love the memory attached to it, but it's not actually something you wear, I want you to flag that as a sentimental item. Your daily closet space needs to be reserved for your daily clothing wear, unless you have a massive closet and you have space to store sentimental things. Feel free to do so. But for the average closet, sentimental items should be kept in a separate place. So I recommend that each member has a dedicated keepsake box. And this is what we ultimately decided for Hannah, that this is a great place for her to store it because she still has the shirt. She can have the memory alongside with it. She does not have to let it go, and she can pull it out and share it with her family in another decade and think fondly of it. So I recommend having a dedicated waterproof, weatherproof keepsake box for each member in your family. It gives each of you a place for your sentimental items to go and a protected home for those items without sacrificing your daily function. Now, her husband travels quite frequently for work and has his own routine down, but Hannah and her kids only travel a couple times a year. And we're talking about how her suitcases were stored upstairs in a completely different room. But we came across a ton of compression bags in her closet, and they were primarily used for travel, but they were taking up valuable real estate space in her closet. And it's something she didn't use very often. So it didn't make sense to have her travel stuff split between rooms. And since she wasn't traveling, like even on a monthly basis, we decided to relocate her compression bags upstairs with the luggage so it would be all together in one space the next time she took a trip. So as you go throughout your space, think how you want to handle travel gear. If you're short on space, nesting will be your best friend. Go ahead and nest those compression bags, duffel bags, any of your little toiletry squeeze bottles inside of your suitcase. And if you've got ample closet space, you may decide that you want to dedicate a bin to your travel bags and a bin to your toiletry, squeeze bottles, etc. Oftentimes, compression bags and those squeeze bottles come in multi-packs, and most of us don't use all of them all the time. So maybe you take your go-to favorites out and you keep that in your suitcase so that when you open your suitcase, you have the items that you need, and then the bulk supply is kept in kind of a backstock bin. Or maybe you decide to declutter and let them go. But think through that and how you travel and what you actually need in your. Another item we uncovered in Hannah's space was a super bulky pair of like snow overalls, a snow bib. And when we talked through how often she was actually using it, she shared that she really only went skiing about once a year. Yet these massive snow bibs were taking up a huge chunk of her closet rod space. Because she absolutely uses them and wants to keep them, decluttering wasn't on the table. It didn't make sense. But leaving them in her prime closet real estate space also didn't make sense either. So we relocated them upstairs to a secondary closet where she would know where they were and have access to them the one time a year when they do go skiing, and they will be right there. So I want you to take a look around your own closet and look for those kind of one time a year events or items. Maybe it's ski gear, a heavy winter parka that you only wear on holiday trips. Maybe it's an ugly Christmas sweater, or like Halloween costume pieces, or bridesmaids dresses, evening gowns. Maybe it's a big, like, wide brim beach hat that you take for your annual beach vacation. Unless it's like an item, like maybe a hat that you might hang on a hook on a wall and it becomes kind of like decor for your closet. Infrequently used items really don't belong in your prime real estate space. So consider relocating those kind of once a year use items to a secondary closet, a guest closet, and you can also consider packing them neatly in a weatherproof tight storage tote to protect them throughout the year when you're not using them. So once you've categorized everything, you're going to go through and walk through just like it did with Hannah, and she made quick decisions to edit. And then it's going to be time to start planning where your items live in your closet next. So if you're working alongside with us right now, I want you to take a big deep breath, roll your shoulders back, and check on your progress. Remember, even if you are only halfway through your pile, you are moving forward, and our video has been shortened for brevity's sake on YouTube. So it is okay if you're not as far along as we are yet. Now, before you blindly start shoving clothes back onto hangers, here is one of my favorite organizing hacks. I want you to grab a roll of painter's tape or washi tape and a Sharpie and look at how much you have of each category, and then you're going to go through and create zones in your closet. So stick a label on each shelf, on each drawer. You might label like the clothing rack area. If you have multiple categories living on one closet rod, you might kind of label the areas. And this is just helpful as you're bringing items back into the space for your brain to not have to process quite so much, like, where was I going to put that? Because remember, you're changing your zones. You used to do it one way, now we're going to do it different. So we're trying to eliminate that decision fatigue. So an easy label that will come off at the end will help make moving things back in a little quicker. Now, let's do... if you have ample drawer space like Hannah did, I kind of want you to think through a logical flow of how you get dressed. So you might do like undergarments, intimates at the top drawer, kind of first thing as you put on, maybe loungewear and socks at the bottom, kind of thing last thing at the end of the day. And in between, you might have things like daily wear, loungewear, jeans, t-shirts, etc., all in the middle. Now, when zoning your shoes, you want to pay attention for prime real estate. If you have 10 shoe shelves high and you have a really tall closet and it goes all the way up, do not put like your daily shoes at the very top or at the very bottom. Put them kind of in the middle where you can easily grab and access without having to reach up high or get on the ladder or bend down every day. So if you're a stay-at-home homeschooling mom, you might want your flats and your sneakers more accessible. If you work 9 to 5 corporate 5 days a week, you might want your heels kind of in that middle section. So now that we've got zones for everything and you got a little label on them, we are ready to fill those zones. So always we want to prioritize hanging space for our things that are delicate or structured items or wrinkled prone items. Think blazers, dresses, dressy pants, silky blouses. Give them enough breathing room so that on the rod, so that the garment is maintained, the fabric integrity is maintained, and they're not crushed together. And if you haven't checked it out, I do have a video talking about what to hang, what to fold, what to roll. But from there, we're going to decide whether or not to hang or fold or roll the rest based on your closet layout. So if you have more rod space, you might decide that you're going to hang your t-shirts, hang your jeans. But if you have limited rod space and your dresses and your blazers and pants, suits like fill that up, then you might decide that you want to fold or roll your t-shirts, your jeans, your activewear, etc. If you have open shelves like she has, you can see down the line that I end up stacking some sweaters on her open shelves. My rule of thumb with stacking is we want to keep our stacks to about 5 items or less. It depends exactly on the height of the item and the type of the fabric. Something that's really fluffy like a sweater, I tend to stack less. I try to keep it at like 3 or less. But if it's like a more dense fabric like jeans, you might be able to get away with stacking a little bit more. The exact height of your stack really comes down to 2 factors, things like fabric type and your frequency of use. So for bulky items like sweaters, sweatshirts, hoodies, you definitely want to keep your stacks to a minimum. Around 3 is usually the sweet spot so they don't topple over. Can your brother help you? I'm just going to ask you to play with brother for a minute. I'll let you when I come out. Denser fabrics like jeans sit together well, and so you might be able to get away with 5 or slightly more than that. But you need to think for how often you reach them, because if you're wearing jeans every single day, then pulling a pair out of the middle or the bottom that's stacked 6 or 7 high is probably going to be too much friction. And so you might want to split your stacks and maybe just do 2 or 3 if it's something that you go to and grab every day. But if it's an infrequently worn item or like a seasonal thing like scarf, you might be able to get away with a taller stack that you reach for less, and frequency is fine. Just always consider how easy it is to grab the item, and especially from the middle or the bottom without the stack falling over, and let that kind of be your guide. So notice in Hannah's space how I organized using strictly what she had already in the room. I did not bring a single new organizing product in before we started the session, and this is always client dependent. Some of my clients prefer a kind of full service, like I bring everything with me and just implement what I think is going to be helpful as I'm organizing. But specifically for you as you're tackling in your space, I always suggest for a homeowner that you try to organize with what you have first and test out the routine, and then you can consider buying more expensive organizing product after that. Often our natural instinct before an organizing project is to run to the store and buy all of the beautiful bins and pretty bins, matching stuff. But after an intentional edit, I so often find as I'm working with clients and even in my own space, like you often don't need as many containers as you think you're going to initially. And so, in fact, as I've worked with clients and then as I've heard feedback from clients and then working also in my own space, so often it's like we'll be talking, it's like, I bought all these things, but they didn't actually work and they're not serving me the best way in this space. So you end up like using them in a different way, or oftentimes just decluttering them and letting them go. So zone out your closet first and organize with what you have. And if you have containers sitting around your house, whether they're empty or you can empty one out for a little trial period and just temporarily empty it out to test it in your space for like a week or 2 to see if you actually like the system. So let's take jeans for example. If you have open shelves like Hannah had here, you might think, I want to fold my jeans, I want to file fold my jeans and put them in a bin and keep them on the bin in the shelf. So maybe you find a bin in your house and you try it. And after testing it for like a week or 2, you realize that there's some friction with the bin system. Maybe your jeans are ending up on the floor and you're not folding them and putting them back. And so testing with a free bin from your home is a completely risk-free way to discover how you are wired, how you actually work well in your home, and what your real preferences are for your space. Once you realize that a system doesn't work for you, you can pivot. You can try a different approach. So maybe instead of the bin, you try doing a stack of jeans on the open shelf. So if you decide the bin approach doesn't work for you, maybe you try stacking them directly on the open shelf. Or maybe it's not the bin, but you are using your dresser a lot. So you try flat folding them or rolling them, putting them in your dresser. Or maybe you just skip the folding altogether and try hanging. The point is there's so many different ways and that you can get your system set up. So keep trying until you find something that works for you. If you don't have a spare bin at home to test out a zone, I always recommend just checking out your local Dollar Tree or dollar store. It might not be the exact size or the exact aesthetic for a long term, but if you test it for a couple of days and realize that you hate pulling out that bin every morning and you hate the process of like folding it to put the item back in, then you're only out a couple of bucks instead of having spent $50 or $70 on the pretty bin that you thought you wanted the whole time. And so the goal is to find that sweet spot, right? Like We want a routine that feels completely seamless and frictionless, with as few steps as possible so that you can effortlessly maintain the habit of putting the items away. Once you've found a system that you genuinely feel like is easy to maintain, that's when you can measure your space and splurge on that aesthetic bin, that wicker bin, the pretty decorative acrylic, whatever it is, that you'll love for years to come. And testing first ensures that every dollar that you spend actually serves you and your space and your wallet. As you can see from the beginning footage, Hannah had a total mishmash of different hangers when we started. And if you watch my recent closet video, you know that using matching hangers is one of the easiest, fastest ways to visually simplify your closet and instantly elevate how your space feels. Now, while I didn't purchase product for Hannah before the session, as I was organizing, I made sure to swap hangers around so that each section or category on her rods matched internally. For her dresses, I grouped all of them on velvet hangers since they had thinner straps and wider shoulders and silkier fabrics. And then for her blazers and jackets, structured items, I used her wooden hangers, etc. So even if you use different hangers within your space, if you have separate rods, if you group each rod according to the similar hanger, it can help create an elevated, cohesive look. And after our session, Hannah ended up loving the results so much that she bought a set of matching hangers to uniform the space. So again, when filling your hanging rods, we want to let the natural architecture of your closet guide you. As you can see, Hannah had like a naturally tall hanging section. And so this was the obvious seamless place for dresses to go. And then I grouped like her blouses and tops together, and then her jackets and like dress pants together so that it would be easy for her to grab outfits on the go. Now let's talk shoes. Every closet is different. In Hannah's home, her primary space for storing shoes is actually by the front door. And so most of her daily shoes was in a piece of furniture by the front door. And she didn't really need much space for shoes in her master closet. And because the shoes that were in her closet were purely more for like special occasion or dressier events, I went ahead and just organized those in the mirrored space so she could have access to them, but she didn't necessarily need them on a daily basis. So for you, I want you to be really intentional and think about, how do you operate in your own home? Are you like a no shoes in the house kind of family, or do you take your shoes off the second that you walk through the door? Or do you leave them on all the time? And so think through how you work as a family and what your tendencies are, and think through where the best natural location for those is. So I'm going to be adding more videos to my closet playlist, specifically like how to store shoes and accessories and etc. So be on the lookout for those. But just because something looks beautiful on Pinterest doesn't mean that it's functional for you in your real life. And so taking a few minutes to think through how you actually live is so important. It's key here, because if a space isn't functional, you just simply won't maintain it. So as we start wrapping up, another thing you'll notice in the finished footage is that I took a couple of minutes to label Hannah's dresser. I place the labels on the top of the dresser so that when you're standing far away, you don't really notice them, but as you're leaning over the drawer, you can easily see the label to tell you what belongs inside. And this is game changer if you have like a housekeeper or a mother's helper, or if you just have like a spouse who helps and puts laundry away. When there are other people helping you maintain the system in the space, labels help eliminate any guessing room. And they prevent items from being shoved into the wrong drawer. And so it's really helpful if multiple people are using the system. And then if it's just you, if you tend to like forget, like, where does this need to go? And you need more of a concrete reminder while you're putting those clothes away, discrete little labels can help you keep your system running smoothly. Now, as you'll notice in this session, our main focus was strictly Hannah's side of the closet. We didn't do a full overhaul on her husband's space, and if you share a closet with a significant other, this is a topic that comes up all the time. So if your spouse isn't bothered by clutter or doesn't see the immediate need to organize like you might, my top advice is always to model behavior first. So rather than nagging at them about old socks or overflowing shelves, I want you to focus entirely on your space. Make your side functional and calm and beautiful. And so often, once a spouse sees how effortless and relaxing your side feels, they just naturally become intrigued and want that same piece for their own space. Rule number 1 is never throw away your significant other's belongings without their permission. And because Hannah's husband was out of town, we did not make any final decisions for him, obviously. So instead, we did a few subtle things. She went ahead and pulled items that she noticed he had not been wearing and just set them to the side. And then she rehomed a few lost items that didn't belong in the closet. And then I just straightened his shoes. I tried to swap out hangers where I could to make them look a little bit more uniform. And so sometimes doing the prep work for a busy spouse out of love and service is a great strategy. And so as long as you just present it gently, you can frame it like, hey, I noticed you haven't worn these in a while. I was doing my side of the closet and I just thought I'd pull these out, take a look whenever you have a free minute. If you want to keep them, great. I can just put them back in the closet for you. And if not, I'm happy to donate anything that you don't want. And so that way it's gentle, it's patient, empathetic. And you might be like dying to donate that one faded Hawaiian shirt that is like his absolute favorite, but let's also remember we want them to enjoy their things. So respect their boundaries, model a peaceful space on your side of the closet, and just let change happen organically over time. So take a look at the space now. What started as an overwhelming morning stressor for Hannah is now a calm, curated, functional closet where every single item has a clear home and keeps her daily routine in mind. For those of you who have been working alongside us today in your own closet, how are you feeling? Give yourself a high five. You have intentionally improved your space, or you've gotten strategic about how you're going to approach your space the next time you tackle it. Remember, the goal is intentional improvement. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking to make little 1% incremental improvements over time, and over time, you will see that huge transformation. If you enjoyed working together today, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to check out my closet playlist. Let me know how you use this body doubling video today. Thank you so much for hanging out and working alongside me. I absolutely love seeing your wins, so make sure to share them in the comments. Again, my name's Lindsay, and it's been a joy to have you here. I'm rooting for you always. See you in the next one.